So my name is Daan Keiman. I have been trained as a spiritual caregiver and a Buddhist chaplain, and I've been working as a psychedelic chaplain in the field in the capacity of one of the lead facilitators at the Synthesis Institute, where I'm also the director of program and product development. And I've been very interested in the ethics of delivering psychedelic care to people, in specific ethics pertaining to the meaning-making process, both before, during, and after the psychedelic experience. I think the ethical challenges are too many to kind of list. I think that's actually the main reason that I think it's so important to have extensive training around ethics in the field of psychedelic care. The ethics that I just mentioned around ethical meaning making pertains primarily to how, as guides, facilitators, or therapists, or even clergy, we support people in understanding their own psychedelic experiences. And there are different models within the field of spiritual care, specifically in interfaith spiritual care, where we are very aware of the fact that very small, subtle elements like music or maybe the way that we present, but also very important things like the worldview that we bring will definitely impact the people that we work with. So if I bring a Buddhist framework to one of my clients, I think it's incredibly important that the client is fully aware that that's the way that I'm working. If you take a client-centered approach, you try to support the client in making sense of their own psychedelic experiences using their worldview, their vocabulary, if you will. But it takes some practice to get an understanding on how to do that in a wholesome way, in a way that actually supports them making sense, or that supports them in becoming comfortable with the fact that maybe parts of their experience didn't make sense, or maybe they discover it doesn't have any meaning for them. So wherever they go as a guide, I think it's the most important thing that we're capable of supporting our clients moving through these very challenging experiences, making sense of them without imposing our own worldview or our own concepts onto their experiences, so that they really are empowered to make meaning. And we know from a lot of the research that when people have healthy meaning-making capacities, that actually seems to help them consolidate some of the insights that they have during a psychedelic experience and might support them in the sort of improvements in mental health. So this is a very big one, and I think one fruitful way to think about this is that a lot of the challenges in terms of access, both for people from marginalized communities to have access to proper and high quality psychedelic care, but also for people from marginalized communities to have access to these conferences and to psychedelic therapist training, we need to look at the systemic barriers that prevent them from coming here, from training. And the reason it's important to address those systemic issues is because it's very tempting to try to problem solve at an individual level, but we also know that a lot of the systemic challenges that keep marginalized people from coming here, from having access to good psychedelic care, from having access to training, are the same very systemic challenges that actually either cause or exacerbate many of the mental health problems that we then individualize and then try to heal, quote unquote, with psychedelics. So the problem is quite big. And one of the first things that I think is very important right now is to start empowering and supporting people from marginalized communities to come into the scientific community, to come into the psychedelic care community, and to empower them to start understanding what psychedelics mean for them and for their communities, because there's a lot of competencies that might be needed for facilitators that want to work with those communities that are different for people from other communities. So a professional way of saying this is that we need to learn how to build culturally sensitive or culturally appropriate containers for psychedelic care. And we cannot do that without actively including the very people that we're talking about. So even the fact that I am talking about this is somewhat of a ironic paradox, because I think I shouldn't be that person, it should be other people. Now there's a growing interest, and I've seen some amazing speakers here that have been trying to advocate for this for many, many years, sometimes decades. I'm very happy to see that they are getting much more of a stage right now. But I do think we have a lot of ground to cover.